Check 2, 1, 2.
Kill.
Welcome back. I'm Monica Falcos on Graduated Podcast. This week, I have an incredible guest. I'm so happy I can't even believe he agreed to come on this with me, my ratchet little side project that I do for no reason. But it's actually for a reason. It's here to educate all of us on education. So this is my friend. We met, his name's Issa, and we met kind of at work, kind of not at work, at your other work. So our offices were right across from each other. This is the day we met. He was walking ahead of me to the Starbucks. I was with another colleague. We're walking to the Starbucks. I see this guy walking ahead of me. I was like, that guy's got cool dreads. Then we go to the Starbucks. He was going in. He holds the door for us. What an absolute G. We love this guy already. So I was like, thank you, my friend. And he said something along the lines of, yeah, you're welcome. And then we kind of laughed and we're like, yeah. And then everything went well. All was good. Later that night, I was out partying with my mother and my brother. And we were just back from like some sort of concert that we went to, some sort of raging rock concert. This story's way too long. And we go to tavern for a nightcap and maybe some dancing. And sure enough, who's standing outside but none other than Issa. And I was like, oh, I met that guy earlier today. What are the chances? And then he kind of waves at me and goes, oh yeah, that's that girl. And then we walk in and then he gets us in for free because he works there. And I was like, what? And then we were dancing. My mom, everyone was partying. We were having a really good time. Barb is making requests as she does. And Issa and I started chatting and he's the coolest guy ever. And then we became coffee buddies.
We did become coffee buddies.
We did. So this is Issa, the longest intro ever. Issa,
oh, yeah.
Welcome.
No, thank you. I didn't know the only reason you talked to me is because of my dreads.
No, that was just my first impression from behind. You had a long jacket on, so I couldn't even.
Oh, I feel like I look pretty good from behind.
I know, but you had a long green jacket on. I remember it. Like it was yesterday. Anyways.
It was a mere 3 years ago.
Mere 3.
That's
crazy. Yeah,
crazy.
2018.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah. I was looking back at pictures from that concert night, and I was like, oh my God, that was the night.
Your mom always has a good time when she goes to tavern.
That's the truth.
But that place is closed, and it should be. Even though a lot of nice people work there. So maybe when Bonnie Henry gets her shit together, then...
Yeah, maybe when the whole government kind of figures it out.
Stops
playing darts with vaccines. Yeah. My friend said that yesterday, and I forgot to compliment her on how funny that was. But
yeah, that was nice.
Yeah,
nice meeting, and then so whenever we want to bitch about work or wanted to, before we close our office.
I know, very sad.
Yeah,
very sad day. I was in there on the final few days of your office, just walking around, being like, I remember that. I love this place.
When people were just pulling shit out, like trying to take it. Can I get this couch? Can I get this?
Totally.
I honestly, I regret not taking more furniture, like just like not having a big apartment because we had really nice stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious about all the other offices. Like, where did they put their furniture, and how can I get some of that shit?
I don't know. Maybe there's like an office let go or like office clear out. But I bet you there will be. There was an article I saw in a newspaper that was delivered to our office today saying that the downtown might be suffering from some sort of vacancy thing. So think of how many offices now that are going to just have all these beautiful, like CB2, beautiful bougie ass couches that are just.
I have a dream of having like a paintball shop, like a paintball course in the side of a big office building. I feel like this could be the time.
Oh my God, yeah. Actually, yeah. Have you seen the movie Office Party?
No.
It's not very good.
Did they do that in there?
Yeah, they have a huge rager in an office building. I feel like we're getting some ideas here.
Yeah, except for I don't like to party anymore.
Right, I forgot.
I'm like such a miser now. I could not even imagine working at a tavern or being at a party.
And I couldn't. What? I could see you at a party.
Judging people.
I could see you at a party, but like black tie.
Yeah, but mostly
fancy. Like you're there to network.
I'm there to judge.
Well, I'm everywhere to judge. I don't go anywhere and not judge
Listen,
anything.
I'm like, if I can't judge people, I'm not going to go out.
If I don't have at least one issue with some place when I leave the house, I don't want to go.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like I need some tension.
Yeah, exactly. Like watching Curb Your Enthusiasm for me was an organic release. Couldn't believe it took me that long to watch that show. But anyways, that was a weird organic release. I don't know why I said that. But anyways, I need to announce my very first brand sponsor, you guys. We did it. Thank you. Thank you for staying with me this long without brands. I know you're waiting for this. You're excited almost more than I am for this. Fuggles and Warlock has decided to sponsor me. And I have to say, I tried their Pixel Pills, which is just like a Pilsner. And it's won 2 years in a row, 2 British Columbia Beer Awards in 2019 for Best in Show and first place for a really goddamn good Pilsner. And also their cans are just fucking cool. And they have so many different kinds. And you know what? Corporations have taken way too much money from us this pandemic. It's time to support local, guys. Think about where you're putting your money. Bud Light? No. Molson? No.
Not
local, man. Why is the point?
Not just local, but if you look at the ingredients, they only have 5 ingredients on this strawberry wit. It's actually pretty good. Water, important.
Yeah, hydration, sexy.
Wheat malt, barley malt, strawberries, hops, yeast. That's natural. That's all natural.
That is some natural beer that we all need to be drinking more of. So the fact that you don't have Fuggles and Warlock in your hand right now, or maybe you're going to go get one now. And I think you should. I'm really glad that you are. Yeah, so we're super grateful for this sponsorship and excited to, drink this while we chat on this Thursday that feels like a Friday. So thanks, Fuggles and Warlock. All right. Let's get actually into this. Let's get into Issa's life. The expansive, ever-changing, ever-growing, ever-learning Issa.
I do look at myself as a lifelong learner.
You do. And you are. You're a special guy. Let's start. You're special. Okay, so where did you go to school? But first of all, sorry, before I even say that, because that's such a broad question. You went to high school in?
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yes. I went to Wheaton High School.
Okay. And then
in Wheaton, Maryland.
And you played football.
I played football, basketball, baseball in high school, but then in college I went to Ohio University where I just played football.
Okay. And you were a defensive back.
I was a defensive back.
Hey. I know some things. People always get mad at me on here because I don't know anything about my guests, but I knew that.
Oh yeah. I honestly feel like football was such a long time ago. It actually feels like a different person. Like when I see pictures, it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
That person looks cool as fuck.
That was also you.
And that was me.
Still is you.
That is in me somewhere.
I feel like that too when I look back at pictures from high school. I see this girl and I'm like, who even is that girl? But I like her.
Yeah.
She's got some weird style, but I'm down. Okay, so in Maryland, and then you went to Ohio State University.
Oh, absolutely not.
What?
I went to Ohio University.
Ohio University.
The Bobcats.
Okay,
Ohio State is something totally different.
Is it?
Yeah, that's where I don't want to talk about people.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about
my
those people.
sincerest apologies.
Yeah. Ohio has a fucking lot of universities in it. I think like 40 or something ridiculous like that. But it has 13 Division I universities in there. Ohio Bobcats being the first.
Okay. So you went to the number 1 university in Ohio.
The number 1 university in Ohio.
Okay. I love that. So you went in right after high school.
I went in right after high school.
Because with sports, usually they just kind of...
Also in the United States, we don't have like a gap year. There's no such thing. You go from high school to college.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. That's why the college movies are so good, because people are just such noobs. They have no idea what's going on in college.
Literally, when you get to college in the States, it's such a total different experience than here. Like I went to graduate school here at UBC. I went to Sauder. And so the university experience is so different that it's almost like 2 totally different places, because I had never really seen undergrads really put so much focus into studying that as I did when I went to UBC, that it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, why the fuck aren't you guys having a good time? I was on the UBC improv team, which was a very interesting experience, being like the oldest person on the team.
Right.
And then like being with a bunch of undergrads and like just like learning about UBC.
And they're like 17 and they're like, I don't know why I'm here.
No, they're like 22 and they're trying to figure out how to tap a keg. And I was like, what?
Hilarious.
Well, yeah. I mean, but it was lots of very smart people, and I was very fortunate for that experience. It was cool.
Yeah. Okay. So then you went to college there, and then what made you want to? I don't know. I mean, being from Canada, we're always kind of like, what made you want to come here? I mean, Vancouver is the exception. Like, obviously, I'm from Edmonton, so when I would see people in Edmonton, I'd be like, why the hell are you here? But BC, I mean, obviously Vancouver. Like, did you come here initially once and then be like, oh my god?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. So at Ohio University, we had two women who played on the field hockey team from BC, both named Jessica, and they
shout out to Jessica's
shout out to Jessica's, yeah. And in 2012. And then, so me and one of Jessica's, we were just really good friends. She's like one of my best friends. And so in 2012, I came and visited her here in BC because she had transferred back to school here. And it was like one of those, like, I don't know what to do. I had just had a job. I didn't really know where to go. I hadn't really traveled like that by myself. And so when you have a friend who's like, come visit, and you just Google Vancouver, you're like, yes. So I came and visited here, and honestly, it was like I spent like a week here. It was so fucking magical. I came around my birthday, and so our birthdays are one day apart, right in June. So I came around our birthday, and it was just like the most beautiful place ever. She lived in Port Moody, and we like paddleboard, and I saw a bald eagle for the first time, and I saw a seal for the first time. Not for the first time, but like saw a seal, and I saw a bear track. It was just like, I was like, what the fuck is this place? And
it's just like they tell us it is.
Yeah, and it's just like they tell us it is. And then so her father is really nice man. Shout out to Mark. And he was just like drove me around the city when she was at work and was just driving me around and took me up to UBC and took me to SFU and was just like showing me like just the universities here and just like taking me around. And I just decided like kind of right then, I was like, okay, if I move from Cleveland, Ohio, I'm going to move. I'm going to try Vancouver. I was working in banking after university because obviously because when you go to university they tell you like you should get a degree that you can get a job.
Well, what did you get your degree in?
Oh yeah, so at Ohio University. So I started off in behavioral economics, and like fortunately for me, I just pushed myself pretty hard, and so I had ended up with a economics degree, a finance degree, and a philosophy degree. And then after you just kind of just like trying to figure out what you want to do, and the most logical one is finance because you can make the most money. So I applied to one job at PNC Bank. I got it. Everybody, was just like, "Oh, that's such a great job," because it was like I got paid
like one and done kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
it was like
be there forever.
Yeah, it was like I got like $65,000 out of college and a $10,000 sign bonus and everybody, and I was just like, "Oh, this is fucking the life." But then so you just go and
did that for a couple years.
Did that for a few years until I debated on that. Banking is a soulless job. Like anybody who can like stomach that, who has like some type of heart and like really makes a career of that. Like, I mean, it takes a lot of internal strength to like really push through that. And I just didn't have it. So when I was just like, I need to do something else. And I didn't really know how to get out because that's one thing about banking is you get the golden handcuffs. You just just make too much money.
Right.
You make too much money, so you can't really leave because you're not going to make that much money doing anything else. Like there's not a single.
So if you're going to leave, it's like it's not because of money. Like you're not going to get the equivalent somewhere else.
Yeah, there's not a single job in Cleveland that is as easy as banking is that you can make money doing. Like banking is easy.
Yeah.
And so I decided to apply to graduate school. And when I was applying to graduate
school. How many years after?
I applied to graduate school. Like, I think I had like a multiple quarter life crisis before I applied to graduate school.
Knowing you, that makes sense.
I was like 25 and I had that like 3 quarter life crisis. And so
that's a wild age, man.
That's
when I graduated university. So like I came out and I was like, what am I doing? Like, it's
but I had already had like 4 years in my career at the time. And so actually, So I used to sell weed in Cleveland while I was working at the bank. I felt like James St. Patrick.
You
like,
just
I don't know
weren't
if I'm
making
power.
enough money.
I just honestly, I didn't have enough danger in my life. Like I think I needed like
see.
a little bit
You're
of
trying to be above board all the time, so you got to break the rules.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way.
yeah. And so I mean, and now like saying like I used to sell weed is like such. It doesn't even make you sound. It's not even like it's not even dangerous anymore. Like it's like. Who didn't sell weed? I don't know, but like, and so I was actually.
I was very close,
Yeah.
very close in high school. I'm not kidding.
And so I actually tried to sell weed in college, and I lost like $60 on like $100. I just wasn't good at it, and I was like, you know what? I need to take a break from this. And then, but
to get a degree in finance, and then I'll know how to work the money.
Yeah, and then I know how to figure it out. And then then when I was in Cleveland, I was actually talking with somebody who I used to sell weed to, and we were both. He was in finance as well, and we were just kind of both having this kind of crisis. And I was like, I had just read an article about all of these schools that you could go to internationally for cheap. And because going to graduate school in the United States is just really fucking expensive.
Oh, yeah, I can
and so like even paying international students dues at UBC, it's like half as expensive.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Huh.
And so like me and him both decided like probably like a month before applications were due that we were just like, we're just both going to apply to graduate school. And then he went to graduate school in France and I went to graduate school in UBC. And then so I think it was April. I was literally the last person accepted because I sent my application in after the due date. I took my GMAT after the due date. And
late registration.
Literally couldn't have, and then so it was just my transition from Cleveland to Vancouver was pretty. I mean, it was pretty hectic, but it was pretty fun.
It was like abrupt. It was like all of a sudden.
It was very abrupt. I mean, I went to a wedding on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. I drove home on a Sunday. I left for Vancouver on a Tuesday.
Damn.
Yeah. So.
What did your friends say when you said you were moving to Canada?
Well,
did you even tell them?
Yeah, I told them. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, Canada, like, what's that like?" Like that. And so,
and you're like, "There's seals, there's bald eagles."
Well, first people were like, "Oh, that's so fucking tight! Like, I can't wait to just drive to you because Cleveland is like 2-hour drive from Toronto."
Right.
And I was like, "No." No, and so like one of the things that you know about Americans is that literally geography is something that they just do not know. Yeah. They just don't understand it. Even they just don't understand it. So
exposed.
Yes. So I had to like say like, no, it's not driving distance. Maybe from Seattle, but not from Cleveland. And so yeah, my friends were pretty excited for me. I shout out a lot of people because I feel like there's a lot of people that really helped me to get to where I'm at.
Yeah,
Brigid, she was like my work mom at PNC, and she literally sat like me and my friend down who also went to graduate school the same year and was like, "This is not for you." Not in like a way that was like, not in like a way that was.
So wait, when you were going to graduate school?
No,
graduate
this is
school?
in banking. In banking,
this
is like
banking.
before I applied. Yeah, before I applied.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
yeah, so
okay.
yeah, she was, and so like kind of, so me and my friend Joe at PNC, we both left the bank at the same time. Both went to graduate school, and and then I came here. I started UBC Sauder. I didn't realize
business.
Yeah, in business school, and I didn't realize how competitive Sauder was until I got here, and people were like, "Oh my god!"
Wearing suits.
People were like, "Oh my god, you go to Sauder?" No, people were just like, "Oh my god, you going to Sauder?" Like I just was just like, yeah, it was on the Financial Times top 100 in the world. I was like, okay, this seems like a great university.
This makes sense for me.
Yeah, this makes sense for me. Yeah. So I went and I had a great time. I had met so many good people at UBC and Sauder. Like I think the program has
I mean, nothing's perfect, right? Like, looking back on it, especially after you've been in the workforce for a few years, you see the gaps and you're like, oh, with this job, you need this sort of.
Yeah, well, it was more like I really loved the people who I went to school with. I really think that experience was really valuable for me to be able to meet different types of people from all different parts of the world, places that like, I mean, even myself, who I consider myself pretty cultured, like I have a very diverse background from like the schools I went to growing up and living in DC, and then also coming out to Ohio and then coming out to Vancouver. But it was just really nice to be around a lot of just really smart people from all over. And and I had a lot of nice, really nice experiences. Fuck, I don't know why I can't speak. This Focus on Warlock is so good.
It is good. It's fucking us up. moving on to how you got your job now.
Oh,
so you
how I got my job.
graduated.
I graduated.
So you graduated from solder.
Yeah.
You're like, job hunt, here we go. Or did you already have something teed up?
You know what's crazy is that I've never really applied for a job except for the one I have now. And it wasn't even more of an application. Like I think, so I work for The Sound. The Sound is a cultural research and strategy agency that helps brands connect with people.
It's not audio recording, which a lot of people at my office across the way thought it was. They're like, well, they can just use the studio at The Sound. Because the studio at The Sound, I was like, do you guys even know what that is?
No,
like,
it's not.
They don't do any voice recording. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And so actually how I got my job is pretty interesting. So if you, I mean, you know me, especially in class, like I'm like the type of person that would be in class who raises their hand literally every time and just kind of just speaks their mind.
I think by this point, no one's surprised by that.
You know what?
But you know what? That's what I love about you, because you and I always have very spirited conversations.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that, because I think a lot of the times you think getting a job is so marketed to you as, oh, you apply here, you use Indeed, like you use all these things, when I didn't get my job through any of that shit. I got it through a friend of a friend who heard this, and I feel like that's those networking and just getting to know people, and
it's really about being noticed, and
especially in Vancouver.
Yeah, and so we had a director from The Sound come in to our class at UBC and give a presentation on foods, because what The Sound does is identify trends and really like investigate culturally like what's going on and what's going to be happening in the future. And so she came in and she spoke about trends going on in food, and she gave like a 30-minute presentation and just about these different things that are happening and these, and like what's new and like what's on the fringe and stuff. And so I thought it was such a cool company. And so I raised my hand, and basically I said that there were a few trends that she talked about that I felt like were only trends to middle-class white people and people in different cultures. This is just the norm. And then I talked a little bit about how I felt like, for instance, like TV dinners, it was like talking about like, oh, a trend is like men cooking and men, and then farm to table and things like that. And I was like, if you really think about it, like you like take a step back, macro, TV dinners and those ready-made things were a trend, and they were a fad that just lasted like 2 decades. Like it's not like a trend to going back. It's like almost just like we're just going back to what we used to do because we realize how awful those things are for us. And so she really, I never had been at a job where somebody, really appreciated just like this pushback on thinking, rather than being like defensive. It was like I never really thought about it like that. And so I was like, oh, that's some place I want to work. And unfortunately they didn't have a job. That was in the spring of 2016. They didn't have a job in the summer. I was looking for an internship. I worked at a fucking terrible internship out of Toronto. Oh my God. It was so bad.
Was it remote or was it in Toronto?
It was remote. And it was awful. But I did get to learn Vancouver a lot. I was doing door-to-door salesman. But I would basically walked every single street in Vancouver. So I like have a really good sense of direction from there. And
you couldn't find this place, but
no. Yeah, you know what? Fuck you. And then the next year they said that they had an opening, and they asked me to apply, and I applied, and then I got the job because I was like, it's the only job I really wanted. Right. And so I was actually landscaping for like 2 months before I got the job, because that's just what honestly, like if you were willing to do anything because you have something in mind, then you're probably going to get it. Like that.
I think so. I think when you have your sight set on you doing something, it ends up happening. That's like for me too. Yeah. So I got the job at The Sound, and I've been here almost 4 years. And and so it's going pretty good. I love it. So yeah, it's so cool. We always have these you always tell me some really cool things that you're researching that I didn't even know could be researched, because I like having my finger to the pulse of trends and like what's happening, what other people are thinking too, because I only see my own perspective, so it's nice to have like a greater sense, especially when it's something that's so opposite from how you think it would be. And it really disproves any sort of prior knowledge to a situation. You're like, oh shit.
It's for somebody like me who really likes to continue to learn, like even after school, like that's just like, you know, and learn in really unconventional ways, like having a job working at an agency that's what we do is research and do consulting. So it's like putting my MBA to use, doing consulting, but then also just putting my curiosity to use, which is just like learning people and you know, really investigating stuff. So.
Totally, because you are always doing something new. Like that's what I love about you is that you're always signing up for classes. You're like, I'm going to take a woodworking shop. I'm going to learn how to do pottery. I'm going to do, and I it's one of those things where people say they're going to do it. They're like, oh, I would like to do that. Oh, I think about that. But Issa's did it. He's done it 4 times and he has a little studio spot at the woodworking place and like sailing too. Like you really committed and now you're a fucking pro sailor and you took me out on a sailboat a couple years ago. That was fun.
Yeah, that was I get that from my mom. My mom is just like one of those. It's just like
really,
it's like really. She's not a talker, but she will try anything. And so I just think that like, especially in Vancouver, where I feel like it's just got like that frontier mentality where you just kind of have to show up.
Right.
And like if you're willing to try anything, if you're willing to just show up and do it, people will make room for you in a way that you would not even expect. Like if you just like, especially like the sailing is like, oh yeah, if you just bring beer down to the dock and try to get on a boat, people will let you on and then they will give you a job. And then if you and if you show up a second time, they'll ask you to do a little bit more. And then if you show up and then if you continue to do that for 5 years, then you maybe will you just
say
like sailing.
Say it.
No, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. But maybe you'll sail to Hawaii. Oh, no. I don't want people to know. I don't want people to know. I don't want people to know that. Especially not on your podcast. I know your audience.
0 people listen to this?
No, I know your audience and listen. And
what? You don't want us on your boat? Oh. We can cut that out.
Listen, focus on what I'm looking for boat sponsors. So listen, I mean, if people are listening,
I'll get some leverage.
we can listen. I won't say any name of any beer, but if any beer is listening and you want to be the official beer of the Madeira, you can let me know and maybe we can work something out.
I love it. Shameless plug. That usually comes at the end, but we'll do it right now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering about your work a little bit because obviously you and I haven't had our usual coffee chats like we usually do, daily catch up, what's going on. Did you hear about that? We usually have our daily convos. So how does the pandemic come into your decision-making at all at work?
The pandemic,
does it at all?
The pandemic has changed a lot of my job, particularly like one of the things I really love about our job is that we're researching. So we do focus groups and we go into people's homes.
Yeah.
And
you travel all the time normally.
Travel all the time. We make films about people and it just like going into different people's homes, like it's something that you just don't, there's so many things that you pick up. Like, so for me, I'm a researcher where it literally everything, if I walk into your house, like everything in there has significance because you brought it into your house and you kept it there. And so from our work, like we have done and we continue to do a lot of our research online. So through like online focus groups or through digital diaries and things like that. But I personally miss going into people's houses and miss traveling. I miss staying in hotels. I miss, I miss that. And
I love going into people's houses. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. It's like, I never would have imagined I would go into someone's house in Kansas City and talk to them about, their cell phone, like that. And so like, I think that's pretty, just like, what does that mean? Like, what is this actual object that you carry around with you all day actually mean to you? And, and how does it fit into your life? And so I'm like, Kansas City, I've never been there before, but it was really nice to go, like that. And so I do miss that. And it changes.
That's kind of adventurous too. Yeah. It's like, you really don't know what you're going to get.
You literally have no idea.
You're walking into absolutely an unknown.
And so I think that as it goes into the decision-making at work, it's made things a little bit more difficult for me because I'm just like, I am a person that really likes to bounce ideas off of people. And so I kind of need that unplanned 5 minutes, conversation, like, hey, what do you think about this? And then like, and I just tell them, and then they kind of whatever they tell me back. It just kind of helps me like think of it from a different perspective, and then I can kind of I can mash it up in my brain. And so one of the things about the pandemic is that all of our conversations are kind of scheduled, and they're through Zoom. And so, like, since they're scheduled,
people are prepared.
Yeah,
they know what you're going to be talking about for the most part.
And you just can't really riff, or you feel like you're wasting people's time.
Right.
And so that's been a tough part of the pandemic. For me.
The spontaneity of because most genius comes from just spontaneous sort of interactions or like word associations or.
Just like you never really know when everything's gonna click, and then like going to like working on a problem, and then being like, hey Monica, do you want to go get coffee? And then going to get coffee, and then even if we're not talking about that at all, and we walk back to the office, and I can go and sit back down, kind of with a fresh brain, and then I can figure it out. But when you're by yourself, you feel like you kind of feel like going to get coffee it's like stealing time from yourself. And so you kind of feel like it's like stealing time from yourself. So when you get coffee, you're not thinking about like, oh, this is 5 minutes to clear my head so I can really think about this problem. You're thinking about it as like, oh, this is 5 minutes that I'm taking away from me being able to solve this problem. And so it makes it a little bit different for me. So
I see. Yeah, working from home is interesting like that, especially when you have to think so much. Like your job takes so much thinking. I know when I was going to university, I had to think so much and I didn't have a lot of time. Like it was kind of the opposite where I did not have time to be in front of a computer. So I would just be like at work, at my retail job, just like thinking. And then I would have an idea and then I would write it down in a little Post-it note and like put it in my pocket while I'm like organizing handbags. And I'd be like always thinking about my idea. And I think that makes such a difference in your work too. Like it kind of, even having brain naps where you just lay down and like think for 20 minutes. I don't think people know like how much of an impact just the break actually does for your brain to like make new pathways.
Yeah, I think this is something that I'm learning personally, especially with like these, with like careers that really revolve around thinking, like that where basically you're revolving around decision making.
Yeah,
and so you kind of you with the pandemic has kind of collapsed that time, so it makes people feel like you don't need that much time to think, but actually to make good decisions, you do need a little bit of time.
Right.
And so these things are going against each other, plus like the pressures of getting things done in the pandemic, plus the pressures of making sure like an actual business is going and your mental health, but then also everybody else you're working with on your team. And so there's just so many dynamics that kind of, that the pandemic has kind of eroded away. And so I think after a year, I'm pretty solidified. Like getting a desk was actually so beneficial to my mental health. I think it took me like 6 months to get one.
I'm happy you got one though, because I kind of saw your setup and
that shit was like, trash.
It was trash. It was so ghetto. And I was just on my previous podcast with Laura. She's a physio, so we were talking about posture and home desk setups, and she's like had to see so many people that have had like all these weird issues from sitting there at home like shit desks. So I'm happy you.
My desk was absolute trash.
Yeah, I think it was like a table. Like
it wasn't a table. It was 2 yoga blocks turned vertically. Next to my nightstand.
That's so ghetto.
Yeah, it was. No, honestly, I don't actually like to use the word ghetto a lot, but like my shit was because when I think of ghetto, I think of creative and creative and problem solving. So yeah, it was really ghetto.
Okay,
and because it worked for the time, but I needed to actually get like a real desk, and so I invested in myself.
Good, yeah. And I hope your company reimbursed you for that. Anyways, onward. You can bring that up with HR in a bit. Yeah. What other questions do I have for you? I kind of wrote a few down. I don't know.
What did I dream of as a kid?
Do you want to talk about that? Did you ever like?
My dream as a kid. Honestly, listen. If there's any,
I'm gonna have another beer. It's been Friday. I'm having this.
If there's any potential,
maybe this peach one. Is there real peach? Hang on, sorry. Quick Fuggles and Warlock plug. Is there actual peach mango? Is there actual mango in here? Mangoes. Yep.
I bought a mango last week that was $11 from the Granville Market.
Worth it though, I bet.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those situations where you take something to the register and they tell you it's like way more expensive than you imagined. It's way more expensive than you imagined, and you just kind of feel.
Turn around.
Yeah,
you can't take it back.
Yeah, you don't want to take it back because you just don't want to look broke. So
I feel you. I do. Yeah, I do that all the time too.
Yeah, so
it's usually grapes. It's like $19 for grapes, and I'm like, here we go. I'm like,
So you just suck it up. You just So I ate it. It was worth it. It was an experience.
Good. Well, you can have a sip of this after if you want. I'm gonna pour some out for you. To a little cup. COVID safe. Yeah. So imagining your life as a kid, like, you were probably a super active kid. You have a ton of siblings.
Yeah.
So that must have been fun. I always feel like the more the better.
Yeah, I think
like wild, but
the more
fun.
I mean, I grew up. My not only does my family have a lot of kids in it, it is a lot of complex parental relationships,
right?
And so and so it was nice to grow up with a lot of people because I'm like not the youngest, but like kind of closer to the youngest, and so like I'm like the oldest of the young kids.
Right. That grouping.
Yeah, I'm like oldest of the young kids. And so I actually had so many good examples and so many of like amazing people. Like my older brother is amazing. Like my older cousins, they're amazing. And so like the things that they were doing kind of just pushed me to what I wanted to do. But obviously I wanted to play. I thought probably until maybe I was like in 11th grade, I was like, I'm going to the NFL. And then in 11th grade, I was like, maybe I'll play in college.
Right.
And then I broke my leg my senior year in high school.
Yeah.
In our first game. It was pretty fucking gross. But I broke my leg just like in a regular ass football game. And I took a visit to a college where I was supposed to like when you go on a college visit for football, the coach picks you up on Friday, takes you to like a player's house, and the player shows you around. On Friday, you go to a party, they introduce you to some girls. That's like what the plan is. They introduce you to girls. They try to convince you to go to school there. Saturday, you go to the game, and then Sunday, you leave. And so I got there on Friday, my leg was broken, and the coach literally looked at me and was like, "Oh, is your leg going to be healed by the time season is over?" And I was like, "Probably not." And he was like, "Good luck."
Damn.
Yeah, and so
America though.
Yeah.
I mean, not America, but that's sports.
Yeah, sports. And then so from there it was like luckily I had always my mom had emphasized education like a lot. And so like I had my older brother's really smart, and so like just kind of just trying to be like him.
Like it's there, it's something you should focus on. Like it is important.
Yeah. And so when I realized that like, damn, these college coaches actually don't give a fuck about you.
Right.
Then I just kind of try to figure out what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to do at that time was make a lot of money.
Right.
And so that's where I went into finance. And that's where I went to finance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah. You didn't have like I mean, I guess you were going to be in the NFL. And then
that was like
and then
my
you were like
aspiration.
actually.
And then I was like, I was thinking, and then I was like, oh, maybe I want to be a GM, like a general manager. Like maybe I wanted to just work in sports when I was in college.
Sports adjacent in the game.
Yeah, and then you realize just like how dirty of a business it is, and not just dirty. It's just like not just dirty, but it is. I think it's exploitive, and so like
I think so.
I mean, I take almost every opportunity to talk because sports is just exploitative, especially of like black males. It's just all of these people making money off of people who are making no money, especially in college.
Right.
You know, and even in the NFL.
And getting like severe brain injuries.
Yeah, and you're fucking yourself up.
Bad.
And
injuries.
it's not even just that. I think when you even think about the education aspect, so people like to talk about free college, like you go to college for free, but when they don't understand that when you go to college, like when you went to college, you got to pick your major, you got to pick your classes, you have to really direct the path that you wanted to go to.
Right. I had time to like sit and think, like, what do I want to do? Like, what does really interest me?
Not even just time to sit and think.
Right.
When you go to college and you play football or you play basketball, somebody tells you you have to do one of these majors. And so it's like, well, why are all these people in basket weaving? And it's because that's what the academic advisors make people do. Really? Like they don't have a choice. And so like I mean me, I had the highest GPA on our football team twice, and like I was in the top 5 like the entire time I was there. And even the academic advisors for the football team would come to me and be like, "Hey, so do you think this class is too hard? Do you think you should take these classes? Don't you want to switch major?" And, you know, you're like, get the fuck out of my face. But like for me, I was paying for my own school. Like had an academic scholarship, so like they couldn't really tell me. But for students who just go to school there, I mean, who just play football, they don't get that choice, and so they have to go to like rec management, or they have to go to health service administration. That was the one that was like in my school. It was like health service administration, and so they make you do these types of things, so you don't actually get like an actual fair. And so when I was going to go to school, I was like, damn, maybe I should be a football coach, because I coach Little League now, and I had Coach Els. Shout out to Coach Els. He coaches in Nebraska. He's a good dude. He told me, he's like, Issa, honestly, you have like the potential to change the world, because I had a lot of teachers always tell me that, but mostly from an evil. They're mostly like, oh, you have a very evil mind. Like I had a teacher, I mean, and and so, but he basically told me like, don't be a football coach, because you could do more than just coach football. And so honestly, I appreciate Coach Els for saying that, but I think that I could have made a lot more money coaching football.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you think it would have been as satisfying?
No,
or do you feel like
no.
it would have been
Those people
right.
live tortured life. Those people, they work too much. Honestly,
how I imagine it is like I'm a woman, but your balls are just in a vice grip. You've got like budgets to make. You've got people from all angles telling you what to do, and there's so much like you can't do this. There's so many loyalties. There's under the table money, there's behind closed doors, there's off record conversations. And I just feel like there's no way to come out of that. Like it would be so hard for you to keep your moral compass straight, especially when you have so many forces pulling you in so many different directions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much
balls in a vice grip.
Yeah. And so, so I guess, so growing up, and I mean, I never really had like that thing that I wanted to do, but besides like playing NFL, and then now like I just really like to explore shit. Like I'm just like a very curious person. I think that
I know. I think that's sweet. That's my favorite thing about you though, is like you are very curious and you're open about being curious. And when you learn something, you're always open. I think it's always hard to learn something, but then still be open-minded about it at the end of it. Not just like, oh, I learned this. That's how it is. You're like, I learned this. What else could happen? Yeah. How else could this work? What's the future of this? I think that kind of mindset is.
Yeah, I think
can change the world.
Yeah, I
agree with those teachers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a lot of those. I mean, like I said, these things are not just from me. These are lessons that have been taught for me from like a really young age. Like I went to a school called Georgetown Day when I was growing up. It's a nice private school in DC. Damn. And so it was like one of those like, oh my God, like, like that. Like, and it was really nice because the one thing I learned from there was that it's just like really to be curious. And I think that's like probably like, if I have kids one day, that's like what I want them to do. I want them to be curious about the world.
Yeah. And realize you will never know everything.
Yeah.
You may know a lot, but you don't know everything.
Yeah. And what you realize is that a lot of people don't care to know anything.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad.
They're uncomfortable with the fact that they don't know it all. And that is almost like an offensive thing, but it's like, or to them, they take it personally, but it's like, no.
Yeah. Or just that their reality is not real. And I think that, understanding that your reality is just a perspective. Your reality is just a reality. Doesn't make when you kind of learn that and you kind of really think about what that means, you can then investigate other people's perspectives and not like judge them for is it right or wrong, but really look at, okay, what parts of this make sense and what parts of this doesn't make sense, and why do they think that? Like, what information don't they have, or what information do they have that I don't have? And then you can kind of look at it from there.
And do you think that's a skill? I mean, obviously that's a skill you use with your job constantly.
Yeah, it's a skill I use in my job constantly. It's a skill I use in my life. I try to do that with myself. I'm working on it. Like I mean, obviously I don't have it figured out. But
yeah, I mean, me neither. Yeah, but I feel like I'm always reassessing and reevaluating my own actions too. I'm like, how much am I doing of this? Wait, like pull back and be like, what am I doing right now? Yeah. Like, what is this? What does me saying this do? And like, who is involved here and what's actually happening?
Yeah. Sometimes I think I've thought myself crazy because you kind of just do that a lot. And you just you're just trying to figure out like, okay, am I just thinking about this too much?
Yeah.
And sometimes you are, but then sometimes you're not.
Yeah. Sometimes you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes things don't line up for a reason because they're taking you somewhere else. I like that. What have you learned from learning a new skill that you're like, oh my God, that was like a really humbling experience, or, oh wow, that was something I didn't expect to learn from this?
I guess my thing is that like you can learn something from everybody, even the people who you feel like are dumb as shit. Like they probably have something to teach you.
Yeah.
And that if you're just open to learning, from people, then you will then like when people talk to you, you can just listen, like that. And I think that's important, to just listen to people, because people go in with preconceived ideas about what people think all the time, and when you do that, it shapes how you hear them. And so if you're just like open to the idea that this person might say something that's interesting, or might say something that makes you think about something else differently, and then you can take that and then you can apply that in your own way. But if you have just really kind of set on your reality and set like that you believe this to be true, even if somebody tells you something that makes sense, you're just not going to hear it, like that, because you're just not going to. And just try stuff. Like I think that's where it comes from, being open-minded. It's like, I will go and take a ceramics class because I know that I don't know ceramics. Like I went to a football coaching seminar on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been coaching football. I've been playing football. I played football for 21 years of my life, mm-hmm. and coached football for like 5 years of my life. And mm-hmm. I went to a football seminar who I know. I mean, this guy's great. He hasn't played more football than me, and so, but I know that he's going to teach me something about mm-hmm. the game. Just because I know that there's just things that I've never really thought about. Like fortunately for me, I've been decently athletic my whole life. So like, I don't know what it's like to play from a position of, non-athleticism. So like when he's talking about like works for him, I'm like, okay, maybe this will work for a kid who's in the same position as he is, and I'm going to have to teach that kid from that position, like that.
Well, it's just getting a different perspective too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just seeing what works for other people, and then what you know from your own experience, and kind of
and
something new out.
And then also it's just like one of those things. It's like I think we live in like such a time where you can like actually where you can like tune people out who you just disagree with and who you just feel like don't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And like I try to do that a lot, but I don't try to do that all the time.
Right.
Because I disagree with somebody on something, or just because I feel like
or because you disagree with them right now.
Yeah, or just because I think that their position is harmful, even, like that. Like I'm thinking like on the internet, mm-hmm. That you can just you can miss things that make sense.
Right.
So,
or a similarity.
Yeah, or a similarity. Or you can find like, oh, actually maybe if I can talk to this person from this lens, then we can maybe have a conversation. Mm-hmm. But if you just tune them out completely, I mean, and I do tune people out completely. That's something that like I'm working on myself, because I think that there's a lot of people who are just like it's situational. Like
yeah. And I think knowing that you have the power to tune someone out, and you have the power to actually just turn things off and actually just like unsubscribe and delete. And I mean, this is internet talk, but I mean, we're on the internet fucking all day these days, but you have the power to do that. And knowing that you have that and exercising it, and actually like unfollowing people, having people unfollow you on whatever platforms, and take the power back. You have it. The internet gives that to you. It's fucking anarchy out there, but if you do not want to be a part of something, you can actively choose not to.
And also read the tabs that you save, because I think that is something that helpful for me as well. Because it's like you save something because you think it's interesting, and then I think that goes with like just kind of people just reading the headlines, and then. And then like don't just like
clickbaity.
Yeah, clickbaity. But
I mean, the
make sure you
news
read them.
these days, like they just want you to look at it.
Yeah, but make sure you read it, because I think that there's so many. I feel like probably everybody listening to this podcast probably has endless tabs open on their computer right now, and read them. you know, I mean, like, you know, don't put it off. Just like stay up a little later and read the shit that you want.
Right.
Because it's going to benefit you in a way, you know, that you might not expect, because it might be a perspective that you haven't heard. And what I find is that in the tabs particularly, it's like not something that you find particularly urgent, or else you would have read it as soon as you opened it. And it's not something and it's something that you find maybe tangentially interesting. And so it's like, it's really those boundaries that I feel like, you know, you continue to push. It's like, just like kind of on the fringe of what you're interested in. Because if you're interested in it, you're going to read it immediately.
Right.
But if it's on the fringe, it's going to just push a little bit further and further and further. And so read the tabs, which is, you know, which is kind of just like reading on the edge of your interests.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Explore, venture out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Well, thanks for your entire life in education, everything you've learned. Super fucking helpful, I think, and fascinating. And I'm excited to, you know, be a part of your life in the future and just see how things keep going.
Yeah. I mean, you did have this question on here where it was talking about the subject or experiences that I want to learn about right now.
Yeah. What's next? What's up? What's coming up?
So, and I was just, because I really think that there's just like not a podcast, but a newsletter that I subscribe to. It's called Farnham Street. Honestly, like they're not.
What's it called?
Farnham Street.
Farnham Street.
Farnham Street. Yeah, it's they have a podcast called the Knowledge Podcast. It's like they don't tell you shit. You're not going to like learn anything. But it's really about mental models and about this like a way to think, like just like how are you thinking through it? How are you thinking through problems, and how are you thinking through information? And so it's like there's not like one specific way to do it.
Okay.
But I think that like if you continue to evaluate how you think about things, it makes you a little bit more sharp.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for an example, like, I don't like a certain type of food, or like maybe that's too specific. But maybe I don't like a certain public figure.
Yeah.
And I really hate it, and I'm so committed to hating that person.
Yeah.
Place or thing. But then so it gives you a new way to think about that thing, or
it just gives you a new way to think about the problem. So it's like, what, you know, you might think of like, okay, what is it that I have an issue with, you know, and then you think of like, okay, is it this person's stances? Is it the way this person way this talk? Is it like is like you know, and then you like evaluate, and then
so you see exactly what it is that is actually
and then you can evaluate. Okay, is this actually problematic, or is this something, you know? And then you're like, okay, does this person even? Then you have to think, does this person even fucking matter? Because there's a lot of those people who we don't like. Yeah, who you're like, the only reason they matter is because they matter. There's nothing else.
Right.
Because we know who they are.
Yeah, because so they should matter to you.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's just
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just
I like that, because I think that's super helpful for people who haven't maybe been educated on how to critical think, or like who haven't applied that in their daily life, or been curious maybe about how to be more optimistic.
Yeah.
Or explore maybe something that they haven't thought about before.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and then it's just like, because everything is connected. So it's really about teaching you that everything is connected. And so when you look at something, it's not just the singular issue, it's connected to other things. And then so when you start to evaluate issues as systems, and systems having flaws or drawbacks and things like that, then you can start to look at that in kind of everywhere, and even in yourself. And so like, I'm a system and you're a system, you know, that we're made up of a bunch of different systems. And so like when you get sick, it's not one thing that's making you sick, you know, like that. It's like your system is sick. So you know, so you just have to look at it a little bit different. And it makes it the way you
look at the parts of the system,
and it makes the way you evaluate problems just a little different, which makes the way you solve problems different, which makes the way you deal with people different. And it's like, it makes the way that, you know, you interact with everybody.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's one of those things too. It's like you can't try the same thing twice and expect a different result, you know?
Yeah, but it's just like looking at like homeless people here in BC, and you're like, oh, homeless people is a problem. And you're like, that's a part of the system.
Right.
We, like I think I talk a lot about like we derive so much self-esteem from homeless people indirectly by them picking up cans. Think how many cans would be left in Kids Beach if houseless people didn't pick them up. And so like the reason why I can go to Kids Beach and I can take a picture on Instagram and feel good about it is because there's houseless people who pick up the cans. And so like they are a part of my system, like that. And so evaluating, and so looking at like, you can't look at like the derelict park as like so awful without, and then look at, Kids Beach as so nice because they're connected.
Right.
Yeah. So, that, and when you start to look at those things, maybe if more people do that, then we can maybe make our systems better.
Yeah.
So.
I like that.
Sounds like a good place to end. I felt like that was a good beat.
Yeah, that was a really good place to end. I'm going
to
give people a second to breathe and think about that. Meditate on that for a hot second. We have a real rapid fire round.
Oh, okay. These questions weren't on the...
I know. So these are full improvisation. Are you nervous?
Absolutely.
Rapid fire round. You're welcome. What song do you have stuck in your head right now?
Oh, I don't have a song stuck in my head, but Crunkman is the best band that has ever existed, and I play them on repeat. They'll be playing at my wedding. I don't know when, if I'll ever get married.
You told me you were going to get married last year.
No, 2022.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
So if you're listening and you're trying to get married, maybe you.
Hit up Issa. I'll link him. Tim Hortons or Starbucks?
Bell Cafe.
Bell Cafe. Favorite hangover food?
Crepes.
Oh, yeah. Is there an artist you're obsessed with right now?
Besides Crunkman? Yes.
Who is it? Care to share? To share?
No, it's a little personal.
What?
No, I would say, artists I'm obsessed with. Honestly, I can't think of anything because I literally play Crunkman so much.
That's fine. Sometimes it's an all-encompassing emotion.
I honestly, I feel like their music is just, like, this is a shameless plug for a band that I'm not affiliated with. It's just that, like, I just love them. I love that you can literally play their music all the time. I love how their videos are so fucking weird that, like, they don't make any sense, but they make all the sense. And I just think that when I think of artists, I think of them.
I love that. Yeah, checks all the boxes for you. Maybe you should marry the band. If
I could marry all three of them, I would.
Why not?
Yeah.
Move back to Ohio.
No, they're in Houston. But
I don't know where. Tried to make an American joke. I know less about the States than Americans know about Canada. What's the last picture on your phone of?
The last picture on my phone is of myself. It's a selfie.
That's cute. You can send that to me later.
All right.
Who's your celeb crush?
My celebrity crush is Rihanna.
Mine too.
I love Rihanna, and
yeah.
I don't know if her mom's maiden name is the same as my last name, so like it might be weird, but
incestual.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Favorite sport to play?
My favorite sport to play is sailing. A sport because I love to sail.
Today it is sailing. Beer or wine?
Wine.
What kind of wine?
Oh, a rosé in the summer, especially as we move to summer. It's rosé for sure.
Okay, I love that. Favorite snack food?
My favorite snack food is crepes again.
Pulp or no pulp?
Pulp.
Favorite show?
My favorite show is 60 Days In.
Favorite cuss word?
Fuck.
First place you're going to travel when restrictions lift?
Home. I'm going to see my mom.
Yeah, good idea. Run into those arms. Biggest challenge about moving to a new place?
Biggest challenge about moving to a new place is finding some place to get your hair done.
Yep.
That is the challenge.
Right. I feel you.
And I moved a lot of places. And honestly, finding a good hairdresser, hard.
Do you have one in Vancouver?
Yeah. Shout out to Nunu. 6 in commercial. She's great.
Amazing. That makes me happy. Yeah. Nunu, 6 in commercial.
Yeah, Nunu's Beauty Salon. She's awesome. I love going there. So good.
She does a good job. I've seen you like freshly.
Yeah, she does a great job.
Freshly fresh.
She does a great job. She keeps it real with me.
Good.
She told me my hairline. She told me my hair is thinning, which really made me sad. But
that's sad.
But honestly,
that's triggering.
but it's good to know.
Okay. Okay,
So,
good. And then any irrational fears?
I have an irrational fear of having sex raw.
Okay.
I think I always use condom.
Good. Good. I approve of that message.
Yeah, but there's so many raw doggers. It's like I
Yeah.
just don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
And I say irrational because like, who actually wants to have a baby? But I'm scared of it.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a reasonable fear. My mom always told me growing up. She told my brother this. I just happened to be in the room. That girls always have an agenda. So wrap it up. I was like, damn. Like 7 years old. I was like, what the hell does that mean?
your mom knows what's up.
She
I've met your mom. She's a smart lady,
Yeah.
and I believe her.
She's right. The more I'm growing older as a woman, I'm like,
What's your agenda?
I have no agenda. Don't give me that look. Don't look me in the eye and say agenda. Last week it was Laura looking me in the eye saying lubrication. And I was like, don't look at me in the eye and say these words.
No.
With these insinuations. Well, Issa, I'm so happy you came on this podcast. You've truly made a fabulous episode. I'm so excited for everyone to hear this. And I'll see you on FaceTime.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your invite, and I hope that somebody can take at least one thing that I say and be like, okay, I like that, and have it make some sense to them.
I think a lot of people will. And if they don't get it, I'll hear from them. And I can give them your work email.
Cool. Yeah.
To inundate you.
Yeah. You can give them my email. Give them my Instagram so I can block them.
Perfect.
I'm pro block.
Go straight to the request folder.
I'm pro block.
I'm pro blocking too. Okay. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. And you'll hear my afterthoughts very soon. All the best. Hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for listening to Issa and I have the chats. Those are normally undocumented coffee chats. But we haven't been able to really have those. So it's nice to catch up with him a bit and record this podcast. A couple things we discussed just to get over my afterthoughts. Issa mentioned sports. He was saying like, oh my God, this was a lifetime ago. I look at that person and I don't even know who that is, or it's such a different time. And what did that make you think of? I also want to say that at one point I say that like no one listens to this, blah, blah, blah. That is not fucking true. And I apologize for saying that because that's not true. And it's interesting. I was about to go to bed and post this without jumping in and saying this, but it's amazing what language can do when you say no one does something, but you are a person who does that. Within language, you have just erased a population of people that do. And I'm very grateful for those people who do listen to this podcast. So thank you. We talk about how many universities are in Ohio. And he said there's so many. Oh my God, there's a million. There's 137 universities and colleges. He said there's 13 Div 1 universities. I don't even know how to look that up. So I didn't. But there's a lot. And obviously, Ohio University is the best. According to Issa. Amazing. He also mentions PNC Bank. It's the 7th largest bank in the USA in assets. We don't Canadians don't really know what that bank is because we obviously never really use it. We only kind of know the bigger ones. But I'll read you the first sentence of their Wikipedia so you don't have to look it up in case you're that type of person. But PNC Financial Services Group is a bank holding company and financial services corporation based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Its banking subsidiary PNC Bank operates in 21 states and the District of Columbia with 2,296 branches and 9,051 ATMs. The company also provides financial services such as asset management, wealth management, estate planning, loan servicing, and information processing. Very cool. More on Wiki. You do you. We also talk about grad schools in the States and the cost there and how much cheaper it is in Canada. I looked it up. 30 to 40K for a graduate degree in the States, US dollars. 100K up to 100K or around 100K. For Ivy League name dropping type of schools. Compared to Canada, $13,000 around $13,000 US dollars in Canada. So, but the discount there. Yeah, he works at the Sound. We kind of talked about overthinking and thinking about certain situations kind of over and over again and seeing if there's something that, you can kind of take away from something, or we don't say overthinking really, but I think we mean overthinking. Just kind of reevaluating and rehashing situations in our mind. I definitely do this a lot, especially if I have a conflict with someone or there's some sort of just like a situation that's just giving me unrest, or I wish I said something, or I regret something, and I replay that a lot until I forget about it, basically, or until I move on. But I usually journal about it, or I'll kind of talk to myself, which is embarrassing, but I do it. And I think it's more just as an analytical thing. I think analytical people really do that, because it's not like, I feel like overthinking is like kind of harmful, where maybe you rethink it in like a negative light of like, oh, it's embarrassing, oh, it makes me feel something. But I don't think that I analyze stuff in an emotional way. I think it's more to try and gather knowledge. Like, it feels like you're missing something. So you keep going over it. You're like, what am I missing here? There must be something I need to learn from this, which is why I keep thinking about it and why I feel so ill-eased. Is that a word? So not at ease while thinking about it. Unless we talk to people about it or whatever. So, sorry, it's late. Yeah. That's what I was thinking, anyways, about overthinking. Issa also tries a ton of different stuff, and he said that he knows that he doesn't know. Just meditate with that for a bit. You don't know something. That's okay. It's a great spot to be in, You got a wide open world then. Nothing's really stopping you if you think about new things like that. If you know you don't know, then what more? You are at the same place as the rest of us, my friend. Like, we are all just trying to figure this shit out one thing at a time. So I love that, and that's such a refreshing, way to think about the world, is just, and your own self is like, well, I don't know this, so here we go. Beautiful. We talked about like tuning people out that you don't necessarily agree with. I definitely do that. And it depends. I like talking to people that I disagree with. I like being surrounded by things that constantly challenge me. And because I may disagree with someone, but it doesn't mean I don't like them still. Like, it's kind of this sort of thing where I feel like disagreeing is different than disliking. I feel like in our world, it's always very good to be challenging yourself. And, with internet and with algorithms and stuff, you kind of see a lot of the stuff that you want to see. It keeps showing you that. So I feel like, getting yourself into new pools, but also new pools is in like new things, looking up new things you don't really know about, or exploring is really helpful, but also knowing when to pull the plug. And I know for me, I've unfollowed a lot of bathing suit brands, which sounds really stupid, but I think until like past year or so, they've started posting more like different varied body types. But for a while, it was just like full on like bikini model babe, super like not what my body looks like. And I mean, the models they're posting now still don't have my exact body, but at least it's not the same type of like thing that I'm seeing all the time. But I still unfollow them, most of them. Some of them I like the swimsuits, but that type of thing where it's like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if this is doing something for me. I don't know if this is helpful. There's a couple accounts I follow on Instagram, for example, that I don't agree with, and that I'm kind of critical of their beliefs. But I like having the ear to the ground there. So, but I also know I can just unfollow them and then it basically doesn't exist to me. Even though it still exists, I can make it not exist to me by just doing that. Simple button. You have the power, my friends, in your fingers. Don't forget that. You can take yourself out of a situation if you want. So it's whether you want to or not. And if you don't want to, and it's a negative situation, look at your system, which Issa was saying. Look at your system and look what is going on there. You're getting something out of it. And figure out what that is. And then let me know. Tell me what that is. I'm curious. I'm curious to know, like, if there's accounts you've unfollowed or something that you've found that you're not interested in, or I don't know. I'm just curious about what you've maybe turned away from recently. It would just be interesting to know. He also talks about Krangbin, Khruangbin, Krangbin. They are really good. Yeah, every song is really good. It's one of those albums you can just switch it on from beginning to end, and it will supply you with what you need in your brain. So you will like it, most likely. And that's, I think, all we chatted about for my afterthoughts. Obviously, you know, Issa's a really wicked person. I'm happy he came on. Whoa. Shout out to my sponsor, Fuggles and Warlock. You guys are dope. Thanks for supplying us with some beers. Obviously, they lubed up our combo and got it going. Yeah, huge shout out to you guys. Thank you. And I stand by what I said too. It's like with corporations and, you know, people really making a bunch of money off of us during the pandemic, especially when they already had money. I don't know. It feels weird. So, you know, research it. I'm a creature of habit too. Like, I only really like pilsners and lagers right now. I'm like that. Okay, I'm a prairie girl. Give me that easy drinking beer. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna drink a pilsner or a lager, try a local brand. Get a lager or a pilsner. Get the Pixel Pills from Fuggles and Warlock. It's really, really good. But give those a try instead of like the big brands that you always do. Try a smaller one. Yeah, it might be a little bit more money, but at the end of the day, it's like you're giving that to your community and it's going to reflect in your community. So, and plus you're getting to try something new and explore and have an Instagrammable can that is cool. So you might as well. We are so lucky to have so many options available. So try new things, even though sometimes it's scary. Even if it's just a different pilsner. Which is what I try and do. I'm trying. But seriously though, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening, and you will hear from me soon.